Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 8 of the GM Post-Mortem. We are joined, well, actually, sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Hey, Lydia, what's up?
Hi, thanks for acknowledging my presence. I appreciate it. Although, I guess I live here and part of the furniture at this point, so... I'm a lamp. A really cool lamp.
This is a really deep question. If you could be a piece of furniture, what would you be?
Oh, one of those where people constantly hit their little toe just to be a dick.
Like a coffee table? Man, my New York came out really hard on that one.
Yeah,
as I'm wearing my New York t-shirt.
Like a coffee table.
On a coffee table?
Yeah, or just a cupboard, or like I do it with my bed here constantly, but...
Oh, my bed frame too. It's like the one that you smack your shin on or something as you go by.
I don't want to be a bed frame. That has bad connotations, though.
I think it's the connotations you're looking for, let's be honest.
The call out is real and we're not even 2 minutes in.
I think I would be...
I'm a lamp because Anna's moth. That works so good.
Oh, that checks out. Yeah, like
one of those
a table lamp.
Tiffany lamp. No, one of those Tiffany lamps with the stained glass stuff.
Oh,
I'm old fashioned.
Yeah, my aunt collects those.
I love them.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
So this is a chat show about lamps now.
Yeah.
Today we have 15 lamps as our guests, which we talk with.
This is what the quarantine said to us. We're slowly talking to lamps. This is where we're at.
You can see our decay.
Yeah. I didn't even say what piece of furniture I was going to be. You didn't even let me...
Please,
okay.
Go for it.
A coat rack. A really nice coat rack.
You've got a really nice rack?
Yes.
I didn't know.
You're the worst. But
yes, I am.
A really fine coat rack. Like, well carved, like, piece of solid, like, oak or something like that. Upon which you can only put really nice coats. Yeah.
How do we get a transition from this?
A credenza. I take it back, a credenza. Because that's just a word I really like. I've always enjoyed that one.
My grandmother used to use that. A credenz.
Credenz. Isn't that... I mean, I always forget what it actually is. It's like a buffet thing.
Like, I don't know. We use it for all sorts of cupboards because Australian grandmothers like to use foreign words because it makes them feel fancy.
What is our show about?
Who are we even?
Why
are we here?
Asking the deep questions.
But I hear that someone is with us.
Is there someone in the room with us now, Lydia?
I feel a presence. A bright, reddish pink-haired presence. Who will hopefully turn this ship around into something reasonable.
I think if we just close our eyes a moment and take a deep breath, we can summon that presence here, okay?
All together to figure out what that presence would be if they were a furniture.
Hey!
Well, y'all talking about lamps?
Yeah, that's what the show's about.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We lied to you. It's got nothing to do with GMing, bonding sessions, TTRPGs. What is that even?
Yeah,
it's all about a good lamp action.
Yeah, lamp content. That's what Twitch really needs is some lamp based content.
I mean, have you seen any lamp shows lately?
I have not.
So clearly, there's an opening. There's a market here that's untouched.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. What are the moths gonna watch?
Yeah, what's Anna gonna watch? If there's not lamp content.
Like untapped potential in the moth community.
There's a joke here. I'm gonna let it go. What piece of furniture would you be? I mean, fuck everything about games. What do you think, Megan?
I was thinking about this as y'all were talking about lamps. I think that I would be like a papasan chair, like the big like saucer chairs that you just like sit into and they kind of like eat you a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you just want to stay there and never ever get up. Because it's just A, it's very comfy, but B, also how the hell do you get out of one of those chairs?
Yeah, there's no good way. Yeah.
So yeah, like I want to be like, yeah, I want to be that cozy.
I lived in one
and
of
also
those
that
for like
inconvenient.
3 months. For real.
Are you a lot shorter than I thought you were?
I was a lot poorer than I was. And I...
Does that affect your height?
I don't think I was any shorter, to my knowledge. I think I was still about 5'10", exactly average in all things. But I was really poor in college and had nowhere to live for a summer, and I was just living at a friend's apartment who didn't have an extra bedroom, so I just lived in a papasan chair for like 3 months. That was my bed.
Like, there are worse places
Yeah, the
to
street.
live, I'm sure. Yeah.
Take it over the
Like-
street. But... And when you go to get out of those things, yes, they always like fall apart. It's like the wicker one.
Yeah.
It's like the
and
base.
Yeah, and it just like it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it makes you a little insecure because you're like, am I gonna break this? Am I too heavy to be sitting in this chair?
I thought it every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive about my weight. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That didn't help with the transition back to games at all. I think,
No.
if anything, we made it worse.
help me out. Bail me here.
So, Megan, if
So
you're
games.
when you're not a chair, when you're not busy being a chair professionally,
Yes.
no, that's not. Fuck it, I'm running with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to transition into being a chair full time, but when I'm not being a chair,
So, the day job, the things you have to do to make a living.
To get to that chair phase.
to really get to that next stage in my life.
Yeah.
Um,
What are those things?
What
what are those things? I mean, when I'm not toiling at the altar of capitalism for 40 hours a week, I stream TTRPGs and sometimes write TTRPGs and think about TTRPGs and play TTRPGs.
And what I remember about you, Megan, you think about robots a fair bit too.
I think about where's my water bottle? Let me see if you can see.
Robots. Yeah. Mhm.
Robots. I care a great deal about robots.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I did cry a lot when Perseverance landed on Mars yesterday.
I was a little emotional.
A lot. I'm like, I just love this robot and I just want them to succeed.
Have you seen the pictures? They're beautiful.
For an amateur photographer, they did a great job.
They gotta go far. I mean, we can send them to robot photography college. And
Yeah.
Okay, I
But-
know the
yeah.
rover's it's not paid, but when you're a piece of equipment that costs billions of dollars, does that make you a professional?
Perhaps.
This is one of those deep
These are the
questions
questions.
about robots.
These are the questions.
I mean, knowing what I know about
just
American,
believe all
go for it.
all robots are doing their best at all times, and we just need to just like cheer them on because they're doing great work, and I love robots.
So you see,
A
I
lot.
remember this because background viewers, Megan was on the first stream show I ever did. Last Horizon was my first ever stream show, and Megan left
Ever
that show
so-
early.
Unfortunately, because
Yeah.
life happened.
Yeah, there was shit going down. You don't have to explain, but
Yeah.
life gets in the way.
Life
But
happens
what I
sometimes.
remember so clearly about this was when we started that show, the very first question, literally the first fucking question Megan asked was, "Can I be a robot?"
A robot.
Immediately.
That's usually like my first questions are, can I be a robot, and can I be in a romance with somebody, please?
Well, that's where
Will
I
there be
thought
smooches? Can I be a robot?
I thought that's where we were headed because we had our characters we established had this
Yes,
dynamic where I was
the-
jealous of you because you could fly the
Yeah.
shit better than I could because you're a robot,
I know, and that
and we had this
I know.
Joker
Life.
Edie thing
yeah,
going on.
which is very good. God, I love
Very,
Mass
very
Effect so
good.
much.
Well, you ended up becoming your character ended up being like a very major part of that story in your absence.
Mm.
It's
Which
wild, actually.
and that's really cool.
Yeah,
But
it was. That was
So
great.
when you make those backstories to establish sort of dynamic and all these things,
Mm.
see?
See?
I'm back
Look
where the
at that.
transitions
Look
are.
at that.
Look at that flawless entry.
Professional.
So
Stuck the
what
landing.
did you? What kind of tools did you employ for this particular background building, character building? What is it that you enjoy about this part of the game?
Oh God, I'm like, it's one of those, I'm like, my mind is like a rushing stream of all of the things that I love about bond building between PCs, and I'm trying like frantically to like fish with my hands to catch the ideas as they go by. But it's, I think Coriolis did have some cool bond building built
into the game.
it,
Yeah.
which I am of the utmost belief that every single TTRPG should have bond building mechanics
100%.
built into the game, because that just makes it so much more fun for like the players to explore, and then it also adds a lot for like the GM to go off of if you're like establishing this stuff ahead of time. So Coriolis had some good ones that we kind of like round robined around.
Yes.
Within the group, which created a lot of interpersonal relationships between multiple characters, which gives you a lot to go on. So that was
yeah, it's one
really
of those
fun.
That one I believe had a prompt based kind of system, sort of like Monster of the Week does, where it
Which is, yeah.
you don't trust them, tell them why, or something
Yeah.
like that, you know. But I remember that you and I was immediately impressed with you in that you just said fuck it and just threw all those out and wrote your own. And I still remember, Megan, I still remember the one that you wrote for me because I loved it. So my character was the pilot of the ship. I was Marco, who was the pilot who was obsessed with being a pilot. Like, he would sleep on the bridge all the time, like, wouldn't go to his room, and would sit there, like, falling asleep at the council, because he, like, couldn't leave it alone, because if he's not there, then Megan's character has to fly the ship, and that's not acceptable. So, you wrote for your prompt, and I love this because it was like, you know, your character just didn't know how to person, really, and didn't understand these things. It was, I don't know why Marco won't let me help him. I am determined to be helpful. And I loved that.
Determined
Determined to be helpful. Yeah.
That's a trope I very much enjoy playing in like characters, is what people like PCs that like aren't super socially well adjusted, that are like just trying their best, and Zoe was just trying their best, but they literally didn't know how to person.
Yeah, and Zoe didn't pick up the social cues
like,
from Marco. That's like, please fuck off.
No, I will help you. Am I not helping you hard enough?
Right. No, I love the way you explained it, though, that it was like, you know, my programming is to help. Like, I'm here to be of service. Why won't you let me help you? I loved it. But that's a great example, though, Megan, of like that kind of bond building, and I think it's not surprising, knowing what you do and the games you've made and the bond building mechanics that you've created. It should be as no surprise to me that you threw out those and wrote your own, because the ones you made were great. And I love a bond like that tells you a lot about the character from just that like simple sentence.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly dig through my little bookshelf over here. I'm like surrounded by games, but I didn't fully realize how much I loved bond building mechanics, especially prompt based ones that are like statements like that tell you so much about a character with so little. Until I played, I'm trying to find them in this book, until I played this game, Royal Blood.
Yeah, I've got that one
By Grant Howitt, who I adore and writes amazing stuff.
hero.
So I played a game of Royal Blood, and the bond building questions in Royal Blood kind of like lit the fire in me that I'm like, from now on, everything I write, anything I play, like, will have this kind of mechanic. Like, I do not want to play games that we don't start off having some kind of bonds between our players. And it's such simple questions, so the way that it works is there's 8 questions, and there's 2 lists of 4, and you ask one question to the person to your right, one question to the person to your left, and that's it. So it's like so simple and perfect, but it's things like, what have I taken from you? Why do you love me? How did you learn my weaknesses? What makes you jealous of me? Like, it's little things like that are so broad, but you can pare them down to pinpoint just like the specific moment that creates a history between your characters, but it also informs a lot of how your character thinks and feels, in that it's able to like that a game like this is able to like accomplish that with like 5 words.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have like this greater sense of who your character is and how they feel about this other character, and like it's just very good. And I will probably just
and
say
it's
that
effective. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, like it doesn't need to be a like a big hullabaloo or like a anything like it could be just very simple.
I would even argue. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I would even argue that it's better if it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Without that level of guidance, I often see players try and cram a whole novel of its own into a backstory. That is very often a novel of its own that doesn't feature any of the other players at the table. To do it together, it just gives you so much more to play off of.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the first game that I saw that in was actually Monster of the Week, and I was quite enjoying it. Before that, it was D&D all day, every day, as for so many of us. And I've seen this particular approach in every other PBTA hack being used as well, because it's good, because it needs to be there for especially streamed games, if you ask me, where you have often strangers at the table. And that just it changes so much. It changes the whole dynamic.
Strangers in a short time. You know, you have 10 episodes to tell a story, something like that. So
yeah, exactly. Like you don't have years to get into your characters to like figure out how they work together. Like this is like you said, it's like a perfect way to jump start that, because and that's like why Session Zero exists and any of the iterations of Session Zero that I've made, is that like you're not like, even though you have just created this character, like your character has lived a life before your game with them starts. Like, so figuring out who they were, and like I was always a like novel backstory person, and I've like broken myself of that habit because it's like I want to create enough so that I know who they are, but I want to leave spaces big enough that I can put the other players into that story.
I'm trying to find it, the card that you put in the deck that says Session Zero. Is it something to the effect of Session Zero is like a game of a life lived, or something to that effect?
Yeah, like it's
I use that as a like bookmark in one of my books somewhere, so I don't have it in front of me. But
yeah, like it's a game about the life they lived before your story with them starts. Like yes, you've just created this character, but they're not dropped into this world without having lived already.
Yeah.
And like you said, Monster of the Week does it really well. Anybody who's heard me talk for longer than 30 seconds knows how much I love Masks. I think Masks does a beautiful job setting up those bond building mechanics. Every single playbook has a when the team first came together question. So together through all of the playbooks, each playbook asks a very specific question about the first time this team of superheroes came together. And together as a group, each player answers that question, and you piece together this story that's kind of like issue 1 or like the origin story of this particular superhero team. And I feel like that's so awesome because it not only sets it up so that you're starting with an established history between these players, but also allows you to kind of figure out who they are. And then Masks additionally has bond building questions.
Yes, the relationship questions.
The relationship questions. So built into this game is not only how did your team come together, but also how do you feel about your team members? And I think those are two things that are very important, especially like because there's always the joke like, oh, like you meet in a tavern.
Yeah lame.
Yeah. So having that built into a game is really cool, that that the designer like put thought into that. Like, how did they come together? Like, what was their story? Like, a bunch of superheroes don't just like meet up in the park one day and decide to do super heroics together. Like, something happened that made them join up together.
that is basically answering the question Anna had of what, what made you make that game, and why you created that game in the first place. You did not go for the one decisive question, the rude, mean
Yes.
Anna, mean
Oh God.
question.
Yeah,
And what is your favorite Masks
yes,
playbook?
I'm super biased right now. I'm playing a Scion, and I love her
Scions are cool.
with all of my heart. So I'm very biased to say that the Scion is my favorite because that is what I'm playing right now. And I also asked what I'm most excited to play next, and it's Masks is the first game that I've ever played where I legitimately want to play every playbook eventually. But I'm right now, most likely my next character is going to be a legacy, and I'm super excited about that because like I, as a player, this is unsurprising now that I like playbooks and classes and things that have like backstory elements built into it already. And I really like the legacy and the Scion for the same reason, like because there's a really heavy backstory element.
Oh, the Scion is the one that's you're the child of a villain.
Child of a super villain.
That's
yeah,
so badass.
It's so good.
So good.
I love drama.
I always say,
and it's like it's so dramatic.
Same reasoning for this. Like I was saying, in Dungeons and Dragons terms, my favorite class in D&D was always warlocks because they come with hell yeah. I remember we talked about this before because they come with cooked in they come with cooked in backstory. Like at some point in your life, you made a pact with like an eldritch entity for power. What the fuck was that about? Why did you go and do that? Like, you have a very important question you need to answer right away. And it usually means that I mean, in a lot of cases, like, something bad happened to you, probably. Where you're like, I need power right now.
I don't know, my last warlock entered the pact into her patron because she saw her and she was really pretty and fell in love with her.
Or that too! Yeah.
And then was like, yes, I will follow you wherever you want to go, very pretty woman, let's go.
My first warlock, like... that I played my first ever D&D character when I was like 14 years old. He was actually, we played 2nd edition originally, and he was a wizard, but he sucked as a wizard. So later on, 2 of the party members got killed in a fight, like, and one of them was his best friend. So then he went from wizard to warlock right there because he's like, I'm not strong enough to protect my friends, so I need help right away. And boom, warlock. But I mean, I love that if he'd started a warlock, just the nature of the class has that built right in. And similarly, like you said, the Scion has a whole huge backstory and masks cooked into it. I wanted to answer that question though for myself though. My favorite Masks playbook.
Yes. What is it?
The Innocent.
Oh,
it's so weird. I love it.
It's so weird, but it's so cool.
It's time travel bullshit. I love time travel bullshit.
It's like, here's you, and then here's your shitty edgelord version of yourself.
It's Enter the Spider-Verse in a way. It's it's your alternate universe yourself that you're hanging around with. That's so cool. I love that.
I've been like dying to play a Spider-Verse inspired Masks like one shot or something.
Where the whole
like
party is the same.
A whole party of Janices, just
oh, that's good.
Like. God, Masks is really good. I promise I'm not going to spend this whole time talking about Masks.
If you want to do that, because that sounds goddamn great. I absolutely want to do that. I feel like we have...
Everybody go play Masks.
We can just stop what we're doing right now and play Masks if you want.
Yeah.
I've only ever teched it, never played it, so I'm here for it.
It's PBTA, you'll pick it up, no problem.
Yeah, it's very easy.
We have all the playbooks at our disposal.
We have all the books. Mine are all down here. Yeah.
What I did want to say, though, is we beat around this. We haven't really named the games that you've done. So you've done...
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Session 0, which I have a copy of on my desk at all times, just in case a game breaks out.
Just in case. So
how would you describe Session 0 to
people
who
so Session 0 is like... It's like a game / tool... almost. So I designed it as, it was the first game I ever wrote. I, like I said, am super into creating character backstories and making just like really engaging and interesting characters. And I know that that's not super easy for everyone. So I wanted to write a game that was basically just like a prompt-based game that would help you build your characters and I wanted it to be for any TTRPG. So like so basically it's prompt based. You can play with a standard deck of cards. And each card in the deck has a prompt associated with it. Each suit has a theme. So you draw as many cards as you want from the deck, and you just answer the prompts as they're pulled, and that will help you build your character and create their backstory. And it's a game that, yeah, you can play for any TTRPG. It's not just specifically like a high fantasy thing. Like, it's system agnostic, just to really enhance character building if you're looking to do that, or if you're looking to like flesh out a character you've already created, or if you want to like make a character really quickly but don't want to just not have a backstory behind it. So that was my first game, the first Session Zero. Now there's also, I wrote a world building edition, which they all mechanically work the same. It's prompt and deck based. So I have a world building that can help build worlds. So it's got prompts for landmarks and cities and towns and people who live there, and just lore and everyday life prompts. So that will help create or further flesh out worlds. And then my most recent one was, unsurprisingly, a bond building version that has 52 prompts to help create relationships between PCs. So you would just decide what kind of bond you wanted to have between your characters, and you would just draw a card and answer the prompt. Because not every game has a bond building mechanic.
Alas.
And I wanted there to be something that would work for any game that could help build bonds between your PCs. I had also written a Quest supplement, because I've been playing a lot of Quest, that is written in the style of Quest character creation, which, if anyone's played Quest, it's basically a Mad Lib. It's wonderful. I love Quest. So the bond building mechanics is also like a Mad Lib.
You mean that whole the Quest thing? It's like my name is blank. I'm from blank.
So it's like that. So like the bond is like, blank and I like have a bond together. We both blank, but they're class specific. And then so it's got certain questions depending on what the class is, but there's also more general ones. And that was a lot of fun to write. But yes, all games should have bond building mechanics. And since all games don't have bond building mechanics, I made a game so that all games could still have bond building. Enter me and shouting about building bonds between characters.
So I've been using Session Zero for a long time. Well, about a year now. I remember I had you mailed me a copy back when I first met you last March or something. I paid for it, but it wasn't no freebies. You sent me a copy, and I've had this deck for a while, and I know it comes with instructions. I've never read them. I have my own method for it. But the way I like to do it is I just shuffle all the cards, so they're completely random, and then I have the players as they go just roll a d10. And that's how many cards whatever they roll is how many cards they burn off the top of the deck. And then the one they get after that is what their card is.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's no consistency. You could get a backstory that's like, because the four suits that Meghan put in the game are happiness, sadness, character, and bond. You could get all sadness, which has happened. Or you could get all happiness or whatever. And then I let them pick one after they do like two apiece, and then they can pick one of whatever suit they want. So if they do have all sadness, they can say, okay, I want a happiness card, but they don't get to choose what it is. I just get a random happiness card. And that's worked pretty well for establishing. We just did that. I'm running Black Void on Weave the Tale now, and we just used that for our Session Zero, and it came out pretty damn good. So it's a million different ways to use this little tool, but it is very helpful. They're great prompts.
Thank you. It was like Session Zero is my baby. So I will always just love it very, very much. But it's like one of those things, like I wrote it and I was very happy with it and I still love it, but I never expected it to, well, I never expect anybody to read anything that I write. But especially like right out of the gate, like this is my first game. Here it exists now, and it's been consistently something that people like play and tell me
Yeah.
about, which makes me so happy to like hear people like, oh, I played your game and I made this character, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it's done well, and rightfully
And
so.
it,
And if anybody wants one, I'm dropping the link here. That if you click on
yeah.
that link tree, that'll take you to Megan's, well, all of
Yes, my
Megan's social
itch.
stuff, and it'll take you to her
Yes.
itch specifically, where you can get a hold of copy of Session Zero. I believe you said that the physical decks are no more at the moment.
Yes, I am all out of physical decks. There are plans to potentially order more.
Okay.
But as of right now, I don't have any. I have one left, but it's going to be part of my I'm going to be giving it away on
Ah.
Twitter soon. So,
Okay. But you can get the PDF version, which
Oh,
then you just use
but yep,
regular deck of cards
just a regular deck of cards. Yep.
interacting with that
And
one.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, so regular deck of cards. Some of the games, so like Session Zero, the original one has an expansion, so there's 6 suits in total. The world building has 5 suits, but there are instructions on how to work that with a standard deck of cards.
Okay.
So that's, but yep, everything just
Get it.
runs
Go
that
get
way.
it. It's great. Your
Go get it.
your games will be happy.
I did just release a complete edition that has all 3.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Session Zero, the expansion, world building, and bond building all in one. As well. That's there. I just put that together, totally reformatted everything and put it all together. So that came out earlier this week.
Oh, and at $20, an absolute steal. So get that. I'm just looking at your itch right now. Absolutely get that. Yeah, I gotta get the world building one. I might just buy that while we're sitting here right now.
And I did see in chat a request to talk about one of like, I'm so smitten with this game. One of my new favorite games, Alice is Missing.
Oh yeah, I love it too. Anna's been playing. Was that Anna that wanted to talk about it? Nymerius
No,
James?
that was
Oh, Dragon Rider.
Yes,
Yeah.
but Anna then immediately jumped in.
Yeah, she loves that game.
Because I need to play it more. Like the second it was over, I'm like, I need to play it. Well, the second it was over, I was like, holy shit, what a game! And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, I need to play this game more.
Goes by so fast too. It's only 90 minutes, so
Fastest 90 minutes of my life. Like, oh my god. I'm like 90 minutes, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god.
First of all, did you play it with the music video, or not music video, but the countdown timer music that goes with it?
Yes.
Oof.
And then I listened to it for like the entire day. The
My
next
heart,
day I just listened to it.
It's so good.
Recordings at the end as well are hitting
The recordings.
hard.
Oh.
That's when we played it. Yes, Anna, let's play. When we
You were
played
totally
it.
baiting for that, weren't you, Megan?
No. Yes. Yeah, like the voicemail started playing like while the music was still playing. I'm just like, oh god. Like,
It's heavy.
oh god. Oh, it's so, what a brilliantly designed game. But yeah, play Alice is Missing. Alice is Missing has some awesome characters.
How would you describe it for people who've never played? I know it's not. I want to make sure I get the guy. Spencer.
Spencer Stark.
Spencer Stark. Yes, Alice is Missing by Spencer Stark. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Oh god. Like it's described as a silent RPG, which it is. So it is a game about a group of friends that has discovered that a mutual friend or a member of their friend group is missing, and they are trying to figure out what happened to her. But it's played entirely through group chat, which is brilliant. Like if you're playing it in person, you're playing it through like text, but
Yeah.
on the website they have like I played it over Discord, and the website had a setup already on like how to make a Discord server to like set it up with all of like the right channels and everything to play it. So I played it over Discord, and it's basically you're drawing clues over 10-minute intervals, over 90 minutes, and reacting to them within the group chat, trying to figure out what's going on. And it is like it is so much more intense than I anticipated it being, especially like with it just being a written, like you're not talking to anybody, you're just texting. And like when we were playing, like it got to like I had drawn a card that was like, oh, like the person who did it is like cornering you somewhere and like trying to get to you. And I'm like,
Ooh.
my heart, I was like vibrating, like my heart was racing.
The cards at the end are also completely random, so you don't know how it's gonna end. It's not always the same, you know, various strings and then coming back to one. Looking at you, BioWare, but it's one of the things I keep harping on is how powerful silence can be in a game, and I happen to be the brother, and my ending was that I did find her, but the person responsible was there, and the card literally gave you the prompt at the end that you're no longer able to text back. Doesn't say why or how, but essentially I was just garbling my keyboard because I was typing in my like, oh, okay guys, I'm going in, I'm typing in my pocket. So various words, various keywords, they couldn't quite decipher the messages and all went absolutely mental. Like, what does it mean? What's happening? What's happening? And then I just stopped responding for the last 10 minutes. And you could feel the panic in the room, and it was beautiful.
I would have lost my mind.
I had one. I was playing the boy with the crush, and who like my character. Yeah, for those who haven't played it, the what separates it, I guess, from other traditional RPGs, I guess, is that there are set characters. There's a certain group of characters. They're set. They have names.
They have like archetype, like you have like an archetype, and then you build them
right
as you wish from there. Yeah.
But I was playing the Crushing Boy, and I got a card. I think it was the 10-minute card, or it might have been the 20-minute card. That just the very first thing it said was stop texting for the next 5 minutes. Just don't say anything for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, come back and tell them that Alice has called you. So I just sat and just waited, just watched the clock.
Which is probably like the only long 5 minutes of the entire game.
Longest 5 minutes of my life. And then finally, at about 4 minutes, someone is like, I can't remember the guy's name, the character's name. Evan, yeah. Someone's like,
Evan.
Where's Evan? Like, Evan hasn't said anything in a while. And then I just come back and say, Alice called me. And then you just watch the chat go, just explode. What do you mean Alice called you? Oh my god.
That's, yeah. I remember I pulled, it was my 20-minute card was like, shuffle the culprits and like you draw it and whoever it is like comes and finds you. And then it was like tell them and then wait 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, flip a coin. And if you flip a coin, like you get away from them if it's heads, and if it's tails, you don't. Like, like, oh god. But yeah, in that in that mechanic, like setting up, like predetermining the bonds is very interesting. I played the secret girlfriend because I am a sentient garbage bag. And that is what I do, is I'm like, ooh, secret girlfriend. Hello.
Tell me more.
Please, go on. And everybody I played with called me out because they're like, oh, if anyone has any ideas for characters, I'm like, yes, I would like to play the secret girlfriend, please. And everyone's like, oh, surprise. Really? Oh, Meghan. But
sentient garbage bag.
It's good because we're raccoons in here and we like trash.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
We're trash people. So yeah.
But it's so it's interesting to have that predetermined where like all you have is you're like, here's your name, this is your bond to Alice, and still being able to like create these fully fleshed out characters like just with that one little bit is super interesting too, which is kind of like reverse from what you normally get in TTRPGs, which is where you would create the character first,
yes,
and then you go in and make the bonds. In this one, you're starting with the bonds and you're building your character back from your relationship to Alice,
right,
versus building your character and then connecting them to the center of it, which is, I mean, there's no part of that game that isn't brilliantly designed.
Well done, Spencer Stark.
Just He makes good games. Really
Which
good
approach did you take? Because we're having another question from Anna there when it comes to A Long Way Down, one of your own games.
Oh.
The favorite game of hers, apparently. I think she's now gone to do her stream over in Critical Misses, and
Yeah.
we will miss her, but knowing Anna, she will watch the VOD. So, where did you get the idea for Long Way Down, and why did you design it with cards and the duality between the epic and the poet's private thoughts? That's what
God.
she's interested in.
Yeah, so
Oh.
tell the folks about Long Way
Bless
Down.
Anna. Bless Anna. Anna play tested The
Oh,
Long Way Down
cool.
for me. God, The Long Way Down is like, it's so funny. I'm like, I love all of my games. They're all very special to me. The Long Way Down is like exceptionally special to me, because it's a game that I wanted to write for a very, very long time, and I couldn't figure out how to write it. Like, I had the idea and I couldn't make any of it work. But The Long Way Down is a Wretched and Alone game, which is using the base system of The Wretched by Chris Bizet, and Loot the Room, which is an amazing, amazing game, about being the sole survivor of a deadly um, event in a spaceship in Earth, in space, and you're the last person on this spaceship. And the overarching premise of it is that like there is a 98% chance that you're going to lose the game. And it's kind of just like leans into that aspect of it. Like it's supposed to be like kind of like hopeless feeling. And The Long Way Down is a Wretched and Alone game that's a retelling of the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Um, because I just live and breathe Greek mythology at all times. But I had wanted to write a game about Orpheus and Eurydice because Hadestown exists and Hadestown is amazing. And there's a line in Hadestown. Oh, so good. And there's a line in Hadestown that is basically like, this is a sad, like the paraphrasing, it's like, this is a sad song, it's a sad story, but we tell it anyway because there's a chance that this time it'll turn out okay. And I latched on so strongly to that. I'm like, I want to write a game about this sad story that everybody knows has a sad ending, but I want there to be a chance that maybe it doesn't end sadly. And Wretched and Alone is a perfect system for that because the chances of you being successful and making it out are so slim, but there's a chance. So if anybody is not familiar with Wretched and Alone, it's played with a Jenga tower and a deck of cards. And you pull cards and there are prompts associated with them. And sometimes it's trials that you're facing and you need to pull bricks from the tower. And certain times, like Anna had asked in her question, the duality between the epic and the poet's private thoughts. So you're playing as Orpheus, and some prompts are you are adding to your epic poem that you started writing on your wedding day for Eurydice. And now instead of it being like this very happy poem about being in love, it's this poem about like your descent into the underworld to try to get her back. And then there are prompts that are you writing like in your own personal record of things. So it's a duality between like these thoughts that you want the world to know because this is your epic that everybody's going to hear, and then you have your thoughts that are like just for you, that are the more hopeless and questioning and doubting responses to the things that you're seeing. And there's a very slim chance that you can make it out with Eurydice. Very slim chance. But yeah, that game is very, very special to me. It's a story that I love, and it's using a system that I find really wonderful, despite it being just soul-crushingly sad a
Remarkably
lot of the
bleak.
time. Yeah, but there's beauty in that. And I think that's something that does, like, it's not unrelenting. Like there are spots of hope that exist within it, which and that's what I tried to bring to the long way down as well when I was writing, is like there are these glimmers, like, because something has to keep you moving forward. It can't just be this unrelenting dirge type of thing.
It's interesting with these games that are purposefully created very much against the players, against the odds of the players. Because I remember you talking about Cult that way as well, where the general Colin, where the general dice rolls are more likely to have you fail.
Yeah, it's
that's
slanted
kind
toward failure.
of the point. And that the art of then making sure you still want to play the game, because very often what we hear in these classic Twitter hot takes is, I want to succeed, I want to feel powerful, why would I play a game that that is against me, which is also often the argument against the antagonistic GM. And there is so much more nuance to all of that, because overcoming something that is actually dangerous, actually close to impossible to overcome, will make you feel much more powerful than immediate gratification and everything is possible. Both of these versions have a right to exist and can coexist. Like it's not an either or. We don't constantly have to pitch everyone and everything against each other, but the value of such games, I'd argue, is much, much higher in the long term. Like that shit stays with you.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that there's so much to be said. Like I've found, and it's kind of like the more I moved away from the like D&D and games that are more bent like that, like I love failing.
Yeah.
In games.
100%.
Like more often than not, like that's where the good meat of a game is in the failures, like especially in PBTA games, like I'm playing a lot of Masks. I love Masks. But
do you?
Failing in Masks or in Monster of the Week or like games like that, like obviously you want to succeed. Like it's great and exciting when you succeed, but the consequences when you fail often make for the great character development moments. Like that's where the character development happens. That's where the good narrative drama happens. And if you as a player are not afraid to lean into the failures, you're gonna get so much out of it. And like just like you as a character, and then like the party as a whole will, like the way that the other PCs in the party like react to the failures of an individual party member, like it just creates such good narrative stuff, like such good narrative drama, such good character development, team development. Like so and I'm all of like lean in to failing.
Classic
if you fail,
mechanics, this is like a very big conversation in like indie game development stuff a lot today, but like how well do your mechanics serve your narrative? Do they reinforce the kind of narrative that you want to do? Monster of the Week did a very good job of that, because failing is the only way you get better. That's how you gain experience in Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
So it teaches
Masks
you to
too.
Yeah, Masks too. Yeah, it teaches you not to be afraid of it. That there is benefit to that, and only through adversity will you ever get better. But in the meantime too, when you fail, that's also when the GM gets to take hard moves and like moves stuff and like shake shit up and make stuff happen. I love failing, and like when Lydia was my GM last season, like on Encounter, and we were known for being gluttons for punishment, because that whole party loved fucking up, because those were the
you don't
great
need
moments.
a GM, you need a fucking therapist, all of you.
Like that's where the good stuff is. Like that's like that. It's funny, like in the Masks game that I GM, God, it took them 3 or 4 sessions before anybody failed a roll. Like everybody was just rolling
super competent.
incredibly well, which is very unhelpful for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I have all these cool things that I want to do. If you fail rolls, and then nobody fails rolls, so then I just start doing them anyway because they don't know.
Yeah. Classic trick.
So like,
I don't know.
so they don't know.
Yeah.
In which was super interesting because it got to the point where they were all like, we just want to start failing these roles. Like we want to get potential. We want to get better. We want things to happen.
The most
So
frustrating
that's
thing
always
in a PBTA is when, and Anna's not here, I don't think, because I think she went to her stream.
nope,
But I'm
yeah.
looking at her through the internet, which is when player just keeps rolling sevens, just constant sevens. So they're never that good, but they're constantly getting like mixed successes, which for my part, that makes my brain have to work a little bit harder as a GM because I have to come up with like a trade-off.
Well, you're like,
thing.
is this too much?
Is that too much? Is it too harsh? So that's actually the one I have to, mixed successes are where I have to think the most. Failures are just, I can do whatever the hell I want. Kind of, I can just make something bad happen.
Yeah.
And then full success, you just do the thing you wanted to do.
You just do it.
Yeah.
You already did the work.
You told me,
told
and
me what
now
you
it's
wanted
done. But that also means that they never gain experience either. They're never failing, so they're not getting experience. They're not going to level up as quickly. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Hate that.
But
I wanted to ask you about that though, because I think this is interesting as far as to the conversation about character bonding. What do you find as a GM or as a player? What do you, or as a game developer in your case, what do you find works? Because okay, we're talking about like tragedy. Do you find that is one of the strongest ways to build character bonds between players? Shared trauma, almost.
Yes and no. It's interesting because the ever-present trope is the traumatic backstory.
Yeah.
Traumatic backstory, like, oh, my trauma,
Like the
my
classic,
baggage.
I can't think of a D&D backstory. Like my family was killed by orcs. Like,
yeah, I have no family. What do I do?
yeah. Everyone's an orphan. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not discrediting shared trauma as a way to bond characters because it's definitely it all depends on what you do with that. But I've found like I'm a big fan of banter and mildly antagonistic back and forths like with between characters, and having backstories that have like, so in my quest game, my character is recently engaged.
Congratulations.
To her. Thank you. She's very excited about it.
Did you set a date?
But no, because things are falling apart. Not between them. They're good. Everything else, they've got to fix a lot of shit.
Pulling for you.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of diplomacy and stuff. But her and her now fiance were partners. They were thieves together. They were partners. So they had just like this really good back and forth. Like they weren't romantically involved, but they were partners. And having that as a backstory was just super fun because then you get the back and forth of like, oh, well, this is just like that job we did when XYZ happened. And like having that to riff off of is really fun. And also romance is great. I love romance.
I remember you posted something on Twitter a couple months ago that like it had happened, I guess, both of us at the same time. And I just remember saying like, oh, Megan gets it. It was something like, I've seen you post many times on Twitter something to the effect of like the TTRPG hangover. We all get that when you're like, you have a really great game and you're like, you can't like sleep because it's so good. But and
you can't
do anything else. Can't think about anything else. But how the hangover is so much more intense when it's the session after your character gets smooches.
Oh my god. Oh yes,
100%.
My Masks character and my Quest character are both in relationships right now, and it's the happiest I've ever been. It's so much. It's two very different kind of romances. But oh yeah, like the first, and I remember that tweet about it. The hangover hits really hard when your character just got smooches. It happened so I play Masks on Saturday. I play Quest on Monday. that Saturday, my mask character got smooched, and that Monday, my quest character got smooched, both for the first time. So Tuesday, I was a wreck.
Smooch's hangover.
Because I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, my brain is just exploding because smooches. But like, yeah, I love a good romantic backstory. I love a good like camaraderie type backstory, and it's not to this like the traumatic backstory gets the job done.
Yeah.
But and I love drama, but like I'm leaning further away from like hanging out in the dark part of it but there are different ways that you can like attack that. Like can go at it without it being like the sole focus. Like it could be like, yes, like we shared this traumatic experience and it bonded us together and we've grown from it more so than we shared in this traumatic experience and now we both just sit in it all of the time.
Yeah,
and that's the only thing that defines us.
The trauma is my identity type.
Yeah. That like that's not interesting.
Some people do that, you know, like
some people do it, and
I mean,
I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum.
I guess what I mean is like not. I mean like people, like real people do that, you know, where you identify with your trauma completely. I mean, I've lived this way before, so like I understand that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's an unrealistic way to play, but it may not be the most interesting to sit with that.
And be the most healthy either.
Probably not. No.
Also correct. Like bleed is a thing. So, like, especially if you're somebody that gets bleed, like, please don't play a character that's just drenched in trauma, please.
Yeah, that's why I don't play as much these days. I bleed like a Romanov, so I tend to back away a little bit.
It'll happen. But that's, like, I've tried to, like, pull myself away from... Of course, I'm playing a Scion, and she has, like, a horrifically traumatic backstory. But she's working on it. She has a girlfriend now. Things are great. Not great. Things are getting better. She has a girlfriend now.
I think I love partnerships in general and romance and TTRPGs when it's... Because it can create so much drama as well. And not in the American cop procedural show where you have... 3 fucking seasons of 28 episodes. Why are your seasons so long? What's your problem?
Why are yours so short? 6 episodes? Fuck off.
Yeah, but better produced. Never mind. Not the problem here. But it's
got to be a happy medium is all I'm saying.
13 is the sweet spot.
Boom. Yes.
Anime got it right.
Yes.
13.
I don't know how to feel about that. Anime got it right. Anyway, when you have the will they won't they thing and then never fucking resolve it because the moment you resolve it you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
right.
How do we show a functioning relationship?
Suddenly like amnesia or something. That's just that
or they have to suddenly break them up.
Whereas that's the fun part, like the getting, especially in a TTRPG, like especially when you have the time, when it's a game that's going, like you had the time to figure out who they were as you did like the will they won't they blah blah blah, but then you have the time to like explore who they are together, and that's just as interesting to me. That's just as interesting as the will they won't they, because like I just love, so it makes me very happy.
We did it on our show. Me and Savvy Seaworth, our characters will they won't they for 2 seasons, and then got together at the end of the 2nd season. And now I guess we got to make the 3rd season a Song of the Deep, Lydia, so we can see that relationship.
Yeah. That came out of fucking nowhere. I should have seen it coming.
You really should have. I talked about it already. Lydia, I will say, Lydia did a beautiful job of playing matchmaker on this one, because you want to talk about great smooches. The scene when that finally happened, my character is a bard, and he'd been trying to write a song for her for 2 seasons. That was like an ongoing plot, and he couldn't get the song right. And what's great, because it actually tracked me, Colin, writing the song in real life, but I worked on it for months and I couldn't get it to where I wanted it, and little bits and pieces of the song were played throughout the series up to that point. Like I teased little portions of it because they were little bits as I was writing them, like here's a new thing, I don't know what to do with it yet. And then a couple of weeks before the finale I finally finished the song, and Lydia had it queued up so that when they finally kissed for the first time, like the music played of like the song that he wrote, and it was like my heart. That was the strongest RPG hangover I've ever had. I didn't sleep that night after that one.
God, yeah, that's
the elation.
My quest character, that was literally 2 seasons. They won't they'd for 2 seasons, and at the end of the second season, he proposed
Oh
to
shit!
her.
Went straight to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mhm. we're we're not wasting time apparently, but she spent 2 seasons trying to convoluted plot stuff, but she was trying to like fix. He was trapped partially in a parallel world because wizards are bad.
Yeah.
Or we fucked over the wrong wizard and
You fucked with the wrong person.
we fucked
It's all
with the
about
wrong wizard.
perspective.
Yes. So like I spent 1.5 seasons trying to fix him and like get him back, and we did it. And then she smooched him because she was just so excited that he was back and like everything was fine. And then at the end of the season, he was just like, "You saved my life, so please spend the rest of it with me, thanks."
Aww.
It was, I had the strongest hangover. It was very good.
You know, I haven't done a PC marriage yet. There's a new challenge. I have not done that.
See, yeah,
I never did a PC
Or-
relationship, like in a romantic relationship, until I started streaming, and then all of a sudden, like every show had one. It
Yeah,
just kept happening.
this is the first. Yeah, this is the first time, like in an ongoing game that both of my main PCs are relationships, which never happens. Like I play a ton of romance games that are like one shots and that kind of thing, but never anything that like grew and built over weeks and weeks and weeks of playing. Usually just a lot of games of star-crossed.
We actually had that topic when me and Nat did the GM advice show on Kobo Press. We had the relationship thing because it seemed just like 2020 when the pandemic and everything started, and a couple of months in when you're like, this is not going to change anytime soon, and it just hits you. People went like, fine, I live in my made-up world now and you can't stop me. And everyone went hardcore thirst and hardcore relationship in TTRPGs.
I just
Pandemic
want
thirst was
all
real.
of my OC. I'm like, I just want all of my OCs to kiss all of my friends' OCs, and for all of my friends' OCs to get kissed by whoever they want. Like that's all I want. I just want
Everybody gets
smooches with consent for everyone.
Talk it out, but yeah.
Like,
do it.
Because speaking, I would say here's a segue. Communication. When you're making bonds between characters, talk to your fellow players. Like, because I've been asked on another show. It's like how do you like manage being in like a romance in a TTRPG? I'm like, you just talk.
Like a lot.
Yeah. Like check in a lot. Use safety tools. Like talk to the people. Like especially like if you're creating a bond with another PC, if it's romantic, like no matter what it is, especially if it's romantic, but no matter what it is, if you have this bond with another character that's a integral big part of this character and part of the story you're telling, like make sure you're talking to the person you have this relationship with and making sure like, hey, is this okay, are you good? Like it's so important. And also to check in with your like as a GM, check in with your players, or as a player, like let your GM know like nobody can read minds outside of a game. So it's just a big part of maintaining these bonds between PCs is also maintaining a relationship between players, and making sure that level of communication is there. And that's how you're going to get the most out of any relationship, like romantic, platonic, whatever. Any relationship you're creating between characters in an RPG is dependent upon a good open communication relationship between players.
Absolutely. And I would say especially if romance is your angle, don't just check in often, because remember that consent once is not consent always. So you may, and when I was doing this thing with Savvy, like we talked about it a lot, you may at the beginning, because from the very beginning, from like episode 1, we thought like, yeah, I think we want to ship these characters. Let's do it. But what if you change your mind? You're not beholden to what you said you wanted to do in session 0.
Right.
So like if the game develops in such a way where the character makes choices that now, like, what if it's perfectly acceptable to say like, yeah, my character was into yours, but like you've done some things that kind of not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Or you're clearly like to do a fucking Padme line. You're going down a path I can't follow. Like if there's,
I did not expect a
But I mean,
line
that's
I know,
from you
right?
today.
but that's a legit thing.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're playing like, I hate that. That's what my character would do. But seriously though,
Yeah.
like,
Sometimes
you're
that
playing
happens.
a character.
The characters develop in dimensions that maybe you didn't anticipate at the beginning.
Mhm.
And now
Oh,
their
absolutely.
compatibility is breaking down, and it's okay to just accept that. Be like, okay, we were going to do that, and maybe there is still love and affection between them, but it's not going to happen. So, like, when I was doing it with Savvy, after every episode, we'd check in and be like, so, how do you think this is going? Are we still good? Do we still want to do this? We had a conversation in between every single episode, and
Yeah.
we would discuss where we thought it was heading. Like, are we there yet where we can really say, like, is it smoochy time? Or do they need more?
Just called it smoochy time.
Smoochy time.
Smoochy time.
Don't know how to feel about that.
I mean,
Yeah.
they made out. I don't know. You
I was there.
It's like-
I was there.
You're the one who added the narration that when they just kissed and then Lydia faded to black, but when you came back you said that Phoebe's like headscarf was all askew or something when they got back. You added that. That wasn't even
I don't
said.
actually remember
Yeah.
doing that, but
That's called narrative flavor.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
it's like-
whatever I did, it was brilliant.
It was goddamn
And
brilliant.
like, I've done it both ways. Whereas one campaign, we knew going into it, like, and it's so funny because we were asked, we did like an AMA after the end of our second season of Quest. There was someone who was like, oh, like, how did you like build your backstories to like realize that you're gonna be like romantically involved? I'm like, it was literally like 5 minutes before we were going live for episode 1, and I messaged him and was like, and they were already partners, like that was their backstories, that they could partners. I'm like, hey, do you think there's anything romantic going on between them? And he's like, yep. I'm like, well, there it is.
Rolled it.
Yep. And it turned into something amazing, but we did like consistently check in like with one another just to be like, we still good, this is good, this is good. Whereas in my Masks game, like, I didn't set out to be in any kind of romance or anything, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, huh, I'm feeling something.
That's what
And then
happened to
went,
me. Yeah.
and then went to the other player and was like, hey, so is it cool if I'm like, my character has a crush on your character, just wanted to let you know, okay?
Yeah, and check in with that, and
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, it was basically like, hey, is this cool?
Yeah.
Like this cannot be a thing if this isn't a route you want to go down. Like, this can be something that is never mentioned again, but I want to let you know that this is a place where I've started to go, but I will stop going there
Sure.
if you're not cool with
Because
it.
like, here's the deal:
Like-
in meat space, people are often the target of someone's affection when they don't want to be, and that's just life. That happens. You like people, they don't like you back. That happens. That doesn't have to happen in an RPG, and it shouldn't, because it can
Right.
make things really uncomfortable when they don't. Because when someone is into you and you're not into them, that's an uncomfortable situation. We don't
Right.
have to make that in a game. So if you think my character has a crush on yours, tell them and say, is that okay with you? Is that
Right.
Most of the time, they're probably going to say yeah. But if they're not,
Yeah.
don't do it. It's not that big of a deal.
It's that easy. Like, it's not going to make or break your character.
Yeah.
If they can, like, that's not how we play games. Like, you're playing games with your friends. Like, you don't want to make somebody uncomfortable to be in a game with you.
Right.
Even if you're like, oh, but it'd be really cool. Like, I really want to do romance things. Like, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time. You'll
Not everyone's interested in pursuing those kind of plot lines.
like, and that's why safety tools are so important, is just like, talk to people, like, get consent with things. Like, any decision that affects more than just your character, you need to be checking in with the people who are also affected by the decisions you want to make and the relationships that you want to form. Like, it's a collaborative storytelling piece. Like, you can't make a lot of decisions like that by yourself.
Yeah, and I think that applies to more than just romance too, in terms of like,
absolutely.
in terms of like the relationship to another player character. If it is, if you want to have, I think especially if it's an antagonistic thing.
Mm-hmm.
My character hates yours. My
Yeah.
character thinks you're a jerk. Like, you should ask if that's okay, because I've been in those games before where it's like, this happened to me actually kind of recently. Where I joined a game and there was a PC in that, there's a character in that who just immediately from the word go hated my character. And I didn't even know them.
That's a strong choice.
Yeah, it was like really harsh and really antagonistic. And I was kind of like, I feel like you should have asked me about this or something, because it's
Yeah.
making things a little less fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything I say, you like shut me down because you don't like my character. So
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm okay with you don't trust me or something like that, but
Mm-hmm.
I would like a little briefing on that so we can work out how to make that work in a way that's not annoying to me.
Yeah. God, I totally get that. We just finished an arc in my Masks game that basically the theme of the arc was Siren, who's my character, makes very bad decisions. was the arc. And it was one of those moments that made me feel very grateful for the group of people that I play this game with, that we have a very open communication. We're all very good friends, because so much of like a good 4 or 5 sessions was my character doing horrible things and making terrible decisions and being yelled at by the rest of the group, because teenagers. And it ended up being, it was some of like the best RP, some of the best sessions that I've ever played, despite the fact that it was like me being a jerk and them yelling at me, rightfully so, because I was being a jerk. That we were able to like have these kind of like emotionally wrought sessions, and like we would always like check in on the Zoom chat and be like using like the O card and things like that. But like after the session, just everyone being like, that was incredible, and be like, oh, like, sorry I was doing these things, like sorry I was yelling at you, but like it all, like, because we have that level of trust between us, and we know that we have safety tools that we can use, and we know
And that
that
separation
we're
between player and character.
in character, yeah, so that we can say like, yes, like nobody is mad at Meghan the player for what her character is doing. Like there was that separation, and it resulted in some amazing gameplay, but it's just because we had to really talk a lot, like knowing how emotionally wrought and like mildly antagonistic things were becoming, that we were able, and it was an amazing character arc. There was like wonderful character development all around, and we're all better for it, but it was very, very intense for a, a good handful of sessions.
There
I'm
is a difference
sorry,
as
all
well,
of
I
my
find,
friends.
with friends, or on a streamed game, or on a streamed game with friends, or on a streamed game with complete strangers. Like, you cannot approach all of that with the same mindset and with the same ideas and with the same level of comfort or
Right.
intensity. Safety cards are one thing, wonderful, but they're not. They're a handbrake in many ways. They're ideally, of course, it shouldn't even get to that point. It does. It's fine. It happens.
That's why they're there.
And it's that weird
Yep,
balance
they
of
exist for that
taking the
purpose.
stigma out, but at the same time, don't overuse them to the point where they lose their importance. It's a fine line. But I know exactly what I can do with a personal friend of mine that I've known for years and years and years and played shit ton of games with.
Right.
I know what we're like, and I know we can communicate with just a look. Are we cool still? Are you wanting to go for this? Yeah, let's totally go for this. You cannot presume that from people you've never met. It's doable.
Absolutely.
You might just gel super well. You might be vibing immediately. That's great.
Right.
But there's a level of empathy that often needs to be learned. And new players, I've seen so many when it comes to one shots, when it comes to the games on With the Tail, that just barge in with entirely too much intensity and to be dialed down a little bit.
You have to earn that to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It needs to be established. Yeah, like there's the people that I'm playing with like the group I play quests with, we've been playing together for over 2 years now, and like we have a chemistry and a very intense level of comfort with one another that like I would do things in that game that I would do with many other people. So like that's definitely a great point, that you can't, there's no one size fits all. There's no, yeah. Like
Sorry to interrupt you there.
There's no one size fits all communication style, or comfort level even. Like it all just comes down to making sure you're communicating.
And in real life too. Who would have thought?
Communication. You can, that's forever. I will preach that. I will get on my soapbox and scream about the importance of communication in TTRPGs until the end of time.
Have you seen Nat's Communicate Dalek?
No.
Are you aware of it? He started it in that GM advice show on Kobold Press, and it's just communicate.
I mean,
we have a GIF.
It's
There's
true
a
though.
GIF.
It's like for every like think piece article that, or like GM advice, like how do I do that? Like the answer is just communicate.
Yeah.
Just talk to your
much.
players. like I can solve your problem for you. Just talk. Just please, for the love of God, just talk to one another. Like you're all friends playing a game, presumably. Like, please, just talk. Talk as characters, and talk as players. Just
the need
talk.
Funnily enough, I think that's fairly out there at this point. Not everyone is. It's not always that easy to follow. Blah blah blah. No, it's easier said than done. I'm fully aware of that. I deal with the same bullshit. But also be open to being talked to.
Mm-hmm. Very good point.
That is another thing. That is something that it's oh, if I have a problem, I talk to someone. Yeah, but if they have a problem, are you available to be talked to? Are you able to? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's two sides of the same coin that I think the other one gets neglected a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, and that's definitely a great point.
Not just receptive, but kind of be on the lookout for that sort of stuff. It's hard to really explain and to really give you a how-to there, but it's I've had a situation where I'm like, I feel like something's off, but I'm not sure, and I was like, hey, are we cool? What's happening here? And like, actually, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. So there you go. Why didn't you? For fuck's sake. But
no, it's important.
I get it. It's difficult.
It is sometimes hard, and it can be awkward. But you know, that's the only way you're going. Like I said, there's I think, Megan, what you've alluded to really is that like there's incredible roleplay that can be had if you trust each other. Incredible. If you're invested enough in each other, if you have the trust with each other that allows you to go into those deep dark places sometimes, there's you can get great stuff out of it. You can get incredible stuff out of it. But to get to that trust, that doesn't just happen. And one way to do that is you do it by practice. And a way to do that is to, when the opportunities arise, or the moments arise where it's necessary, where something's happened that has made you uncomfortable, go forward and talk about it. The only way you're going to learn is if you try, or the only way you're going to establish that is if you try. And you know, once you start opening those lines of communication with each other, it'll only build more trust between all of you. If you're willing to talk, and if you're willing, as Lydia said, to listen, if you're willing to be talked to and be open and receptive, it's going to make you all stronger in the long run. You're going to get
100%.
You're going to have tighter bonds between players, and your game is going to benefit for it. It's going to be a better game.
Absolutely. Like it's going to make you better as players. It's going to make your gameplay better as characters. Like there's no downside to having to having that open level of communication and being willing to do what it takes to build that communication and that trust between the group.
Modlight also brought up guesting players in groups, and how Yeah, when you've played with a long time, you need to be flexible for new players that are brought in. Um, I would even go a step further or start a little bit earlier by saying that communication applies to whether that group even wants a guest.
Oh yeah.
Like, ask if they're cool with someone coming in playing either one of your
Oh
NPCs
yeah.
or
Never
playing
bring someone in
one.
without asking people first.
Don't just
And I think that
Don't do that.
is the importance of session zero as a tool, not session zero my game, but session zero as like an actual session zero.
Session zero.
Yes, lowercase session zero. Like session zero as a tool to like establish that kind of stuff right in the beginning, and saying then multiple things like establishing like the tone of the game, like what everybody, like setting expectations, what people want out of it, and that kind of thing is very important, like just from the onset, to make sure that everybody wants the same thing out of a game, because
Yeah.
that could affect it a lot if not everybody's looking to get the same thing out of it.
Can you elaborate what you agree to disagree with? It's I'm a little bit unsure as to what you mean exactly.
Well, let me just say, if that's the part about bringing in another player, I will say, okay, I think bringing in a guest player for like a single session can be just really cool, and I've done it, and I did it. Lydia did this for me. I brought Lydia in in a couple of my different games as a guest, and it was cool, and it was effective, and it was sort of a just a great way to add new flavor to the story. But
so we just did a guest player on Soaring City. We just had a guest last week.
Yeah.
It was
But I did not ask the players first in advance of that. I did it as a story trick. I was bringing in someone new to surprise them for some cool stuff. That, I think, is the most I'd ever go, though, without asking them first. I wouldn't never add someone new to the campaign. You know, if it's an ongoing game, I would never add someone without first asking them if that was
and
okay.
I think
Did you?
and I think
go for it.
sorry, and I think with guest players, especially, like, I guess in any capacity, but in a streaming capacity, especially like I said, we just had on the Soaring City, which is the quest show that I'm in. We just had a guest last session, and it was something that we all as a group decided that we wanted to do guests, and have a couple guests on the season. And really with that, like in reference to Mod Light's comments about making sure that you're not kind of ignoring or shunning like whoever comes in, like it's a collaborative group effort, that like we all as a group wanted this guest to come in and play with us, and knowing that they're only there for one session made us all very cognizant of making sure that they were getting their time to play their character and to get into their character. And we knew, because they were only going to be there for a session, that we were all able to kind of either step back from a lot of the major moving pieces of that session, or we would do things that lifted up or highlighted what our guest was doing, because they were there to achieve a purpose within the story that was being told that session. So I think that depends on the group. Like bringing somebody new in, there needs to be that understanding. Like you don't want anybody to feel unwelcome if you're an established group that's been playing together. Like and if you want to bring someone in, you definitely don't want to make them feel unwelcome or make them feel like they're on the outside because everybody else has been playing together for a while. Like you want to make sure that you are welcoming and giving them the time, like their time to shine, because they're only going to be there for a little bit of time, and making sure that they feel included in part of the story that you're telling.
Yeah, and I have thoughts on this because I've seen, I'm not going to name any, I've seen it done bad. I've seen it done very bad, where on stream games where a guest character is brought in and then they don't do anything for the whole time. Like
2 hours.
Okay, well now you're you know, a character who, you know, took the time to make a character to be on this show for, you know, a guest spot for one episode, and then they sit there and don't talk for 2 hours because the spotlight management is bad, and the GM is not getting them in to the and that pisses me off, frankly.
It's a lot of awareness. Like, there's a lot of awareness involved with that kind of thing.
And I mean, it's just, you gotta have good spotlight management. But if someone takes the time to be a guest on your show, or to be a guest in your home game, or your pretzels and beer game, like, make them feel like they have a reason for being there. Let them do stuff.
I'm a big fan of, for stream games in particular, but in general, I'm a big fan of bringing people in as a character already mentioned in the game, already established some form of relationship. Really basically an NPC that is a bit more important and a bit bigger. We had that on Song of the Deep with your sister, of course, played by Anna.
Yep.
Marlon was teased as the Yeti inventor, absolutely mental Yeti inventor. We love him dearly.
Thank you, Marlon.
What was your name again? Belinda?
Oh, I had a lot of names. Yeah, his character's thing was that he could never get anyone's name right, so he just kept giving... My name was Bastion, but he would just come up with different... You listen here, Brittany! Like, okay.
Yeah, Brittany.
Betty June was one.
Belinda.
Blanche.
Balapa Booga Balapa Boom, I think was the most... or something like that.
Yeah, like Baba de Ba. I don't... There might have been a Kid Rock reference. I don't remember.
But yeah, anyway, the NPC route, if you have a stream game in particular, I think it's the safest one. Because people will already know who that is, and you have your pre-established relations. Obviously, ideally, the guest watches the show.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
And also knows about that NPC. But yeah, in a home game, just having a fellow adventurer, it can be tricky, and it can lead to those, there's a newbie in town, and we have to defend our turf.
And that comes with going back to creating bonds and reasons why these characters are together. Like, you run into the problem so often in the first 2 or 3 D&D campaigns that I played in, when I first started playing TTRPGs. Just because the player, there was never a reason why they were all together besides the fact that, us as players knew that we were playing this game together. When there was no reason why the PCs would be traveling together or be together or doing anything together, especially when you have, really conflicting, viewpoints and things like that, between PCs. It's important, that's why creating these bonds ahead of time, or creating a joint backstory for your party can be so important, is just because the players want to play together doesn't give a solid reason why the PCs are playing together. I think that goes into guest characters as well, as just because you know that you want somebody to come in and guest on the stream or in your home game or anything like that, doesn't mean that the players are going to be immediately accepting of, all of a sudden we have this person that's going to be tagging along with us for this leg of an adventure.
And I'll say to that point, I learned the importance of character bonds, and I learned the importance of creating backstory between characters in advance by doing it wrong. And by seeing it done wrong when I first started playing with other DMs, and doing it wrong myself, of not taking because I didn't put in the time up front to make it work. And what I found was you have I'll tell you, I did a D&D 4th edition campaign that I DM'd, and I did the classic you meet in a tavern beginning. The problem with the you meet in a tavern beginning is all of the characters are in a tavern, something happens. You have to answer 2 questions. Why do they all react to it? Why do they do anything in response to the thing? If there's all of a sudden there's a bar fight, all of a sudden bandits break in, all of a sudden the bar's on fire. Why do all of them do something? And then afterward, why do they stay together as a party? You may be a really skilled DM who can come up with something that's so good and so concise. You can move the chess pieces in just such a way that it naturally feels like it happens. But I'm just here to tell you, DMs of the world, you're probably not that good. You're probably not. Sorry, you're just not. I'm not that good. Most people I don't think are that good. It just won't happen. What's much better is if you have, going into that first session, some reason why they're all working together. Because after that, when we did that first session, they had the event in a tavern. I actually don't even remember what happened. I think a fight broke out. And they all responded to it. And then they all just started traveling together. And it was weird. It didn't really work. They didn't really know each other. They didn't get along. And what I started asking was, and I realized I was asking these questions too late, but the question that I should have been asking all the while is, to put it in really cynical terms, why do you all tolerate each other? Why? That was probably the first Bond question I ever asked a party. Why do you all tolerate each other? You all hang out and you all travel together. Why? Why do you do that when you could be doing anything else? Why are you here right now? And that was the first time I ever made them ask.
Kept you together.
Yeah. Why are you still doing this? Absolutely. And like, when this is a campaign that never happened, but we had discussed doing and I'm glad it didn't happen, but we discussed doing like an evil campaign where they wanted to play villains. And one of the first questions I asked there was, how are you not all dead or in jail? Because if you're evil, how are you getting away with it? And why are you all not dead or in jail? And secondly, for as far as character bonds go, why have you all not betrayed each other?
Yeah, like evil's generally like a solo gig.
Yeah, exactly. It tends to be, especially in the D&D
somebody wants to
universe.
be the most evil. Somebody wants to be the most evil.
Yeah, no one wants to be second fiddle evil. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I would like to play an evil one shot at one point, but I want to be the Igor henchman person.
Brilliant.
Can we do that in one of the one shots? I know we booked till like mid-April at this point.
We're booked to mid-April, but
let's do an evil game.
An evil game of Pasión de las Pasiones.
Oh,
I'm getting an eye patch.
Or you do like an all henchman evil game.
Yeah.
Where it's like about all the henchmen are sent out on an errand from their evil overlords.
There's a Savage Worlds game. I think it's called Goon. That is built that you all play as the henchmen.
Yeah.
You're all mooks.
Or it's almost like when it feels like an eternity, but they did when some of the Critical Role people did the Goblin Pathfinder one shot.
Yeah, we did that on Susie's channel as well.
Which was
is that Goblin Heist?
No, that's
it was Pathfinder. Well,
it's Pathfinder.
When Critical Role did it was Pathfinder. But I remember that very distinctly when they were all going out and they like fought adventurers because they're goblins.
Yeah.
But
there's a pre-made one as well, a one shot with goblins, and you try and it's another goblin.
But with evil characters, you need to tread.
That can go so south so bad.
Tread lightly. Yeah.
I've never had the guts to try it.
Yeah, I like for me, like I'm not like that doesn't interest me. Like I don't want to play a TTRPG to like be an asshole. Like
I can see
not
it work.
Shitting on anyone who does, because like I understand like yes, it could be fun, but like as far like for me, it's like I just want to play Star-Crossed and play games where I can smooch people.
You could still do that.
Superhero, and
you know, it's the classic. The classic. Every villain is the hero of their own story. You know, where you could be. You know, every one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Like, you could do it that way. I just have trouble.
Oh, that's kind of accidental. I think we played evil wrong. The first D&D campaign I ever joined was an evil campaign. We were all Yuan-Ti.
What a way to start.
I know. It was so edgelordy. Thinking back now, knowing what I know now, I'm like, all the red flags. Boy. But it was still fun because it introduced me to RPGs in general. And obviously you kind of find I only knew one person at that table, but you kind of find the people you hold on to dearly, and they had changing GMs. And the main GM he had his own character for, you know, in case of changing. It was Drow, and he painted with blood.
Oh, wow.
Oh, honey. But anyway, then when one other person GM'd, he was more into RP, and we were all like, wait, this is how you can play this game as well? And we completely abandoned the evil thing because that's wrong. Not the evil campaign, but something happened in game that we were like, well, that's not wrong. We're not going to do that. That's horrible. So yeah, we played evil wrong, but it was fun. It was better that way.
What about a game like Vampire?
I have opinions on Vampire.
I personally don't love
opinions on Vampire.
But I'm not that whole thing. I'm not really.
I think
I have opinions, none of them good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I don't doubt that it can be good. I played a couple of sessions with actual friends that I trust, but even there I was like, you know what? I have left that kind of edgelord phase behind me.
Yeah, like if I'm thinking of a game where you're playing bad guys or whatever, like I think of Blades in the Dark.
Yeah.
Because like the conceit of Blades in the Dark is like, these are not good guys. These are all criminals, or they're all whatever. Like they're just like, it's explicit in the front of the game.
But
like,
the world of Blades in the Dark is criminal.
But the world of Blades in the Dark is bad.
Yeah, everything sucks.
So like, right.
That's how you survive in Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's just like, you're not good guys, but nobody in this world is good guys. Like you're just trying to get by, and so is everybody else. So make sure that you're the one that gets by. And that's an interesting like approach to it. I think like I'd be interested in like exploring that aspect of it if it's like bad guys versus worse guys.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
I mean, Blades in the Dark is good at that. Dishonored does that well too, because they're very similar universes. Like the government is criminal, everyone's a criminal.
Yeah,
like
everyone's bad.
Everyone's crooked. You're just all relative.
Or it's like Scum and Villainy.
Scum and Villainy, yeah.
Also, Forge in the Dark is that way too. It's just like, you're a bad guy, like you're doing bad things.
Yeah,
I think that World of Darkness does that though as well. Like you have the vampires, you have the various everything starts with a C, so in my brain it all mashes together because I hate it. But you have the various, not clans, but the other thing, Tremere, blah blah blah, Bruja.
I don't know.
Not Coven, but Coterie. No, that's your personal group. But then the other thing also starts with a C.
Cadre. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
I hate it when people do that. Anyway, and very often people like to go for there's something wrong within the hierarchy of vampires, so you're mostly fighting other vampires. I think the Camarilla, yeah, that's the whole organization, but then the individual clans of the vampires, Frax. Isn't that also a C word?
Who's got the
book?
Not
that C word.
Don't.
I'm not opening the PDF. But I think the main problem here is, with vampire in particular, is because vampire is such a power fantasy stereotype as well. Everyone wants to start immediately being the best and being the most beautiful, always the beautiful. I have that issue as well, but get over it.
Same. I'm like, nope, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Every time.
Irresistible looks.
Or I'm not playing.
We had a home game, the one I left after 4 episodes, where 3 out of the 5 players were like, yeah, I'm having irresistible looks. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Right. Cool.
That's my favorite ever. And once again, Grant Howitt, who I love, uses the term often impossibly beautiful to describe things. It's in Royal Blood and it's in Spire, another game that I absolutely adore. And like,
I meant to ask you about that. We'll get to that later. But
like, I have latched so firmly onto just like impossibly beautiful. I'm like, that is it. That's it. I love that. That's perfect. I love it. Yes.
Possible.
It's not possible to be as beautiful. I'm like, that's
eyes are melting. Yana Jonesy.
Look upon me in despair.
Instead of a Dark Lord, you'd have a queen. And that's fine.
Goals.
All of these power fantasies are fine, but when you have 5 people who come into this game trying to be the protagonist, and I feel, this is subjective, I feel like the vampire attracts that kind of thinking and inadvertently furthers this kind of approach to a game.
Yeah, like main character. I call it main character syndrome.
Main character syndrome. Thank you. I'm not the only one that uses that.
Yes, I'm like.
Yeah.
I've played. I have played with many main character syndrome sufferers, and it is.
That's why I don't
hard.
like the in Monster of the Week. I don't like the Chosen playbook in Monster of the Week because it has built-in main character syndrome.
Yeah.
That you can get past it, but it's something you have to address up front before you let somebody play it.
I think when the Adventure Zone played, they handled it well because he was the chosen.
He was a chosen.
That did not. He did not want to be the chosen.
He was one of several. He was a chosen one. He's not the chosen one.
Yeah, the chosen one.
But I call it anime protagonist syndrome. But
that works very well.
That works too.
Yeah.
I have. Never mind. It's you can't all be Lestat, and everyone's fucking trying to be Lestat in a vampire game. That's my personal experience. That's how you burn houses down a lot. That's not going to work. So, yeah, that's just I cannot play vampire with just a random group because I don't trust bitches. So here, that would have. I would like to try it again, but very carefully selected.
That's like the main reason why I'm like it doesn't interest me as a game. Is because I feel like it attracts that, like, the power dynamic of the game attracts that kind of people, and those aren't the kind of people that I really want to play a game with.
I'll be honest, it doesn't attract me because I don't like vampires. I said it. I don't like vampires. It's just this. I know this is one of those things that'll get your head cut off in TTRPG world, but I don't. I'm sick of goddamn vampires. They're creepy.
I like vampires. I don't mind vampires. But
there's a lot of weird baggage with vampires.
I don't really want to play vampire. I'm just like, like I'm good with my superheroes and my Spire and
yeah, Spire's one I want to ask you about because I own it and I haven't played it yet. It's been sitting on my shelf.
God, I love Spire so much.
I mean, you're all freaking dark elves, so immediately I'm like on board.
Spire is
awesome.
amazing. I am apeshit for games that have amazing aesthetics. Spire has some of the most amazing aesthetics that I have ever encountered. Spire also has some of the best bond building mechanics that I've ever encountered.
What is so good about
how
them?
Grant Howitt knows how to write character bonds.
Grant knows what's up.
He does know what's up. I got to play Spire with him I don't know, an indiscriminate amount of time ago, because what is time? And he's wonderful. So Spire.
I invited him on the show, and I'm still waiting to hear back.
The call out,
but
he's not watching. That's the point. I hope you're watching, Grant. Please come on.
But the bond building mechanics in Spire are so cool because every class, and the classes are incredible. If anybody out there has not heard of or read or anything of Spire, please go look up Spire. It is so good.
It's fine.
I've been dying to play. I played in a campaign, almost 2 years ago now, and I miss it so much. I want to play more Spire. But when you're creating your characters, each class has a PC bond question that attaches you to another PC in the party, and then they also have, let me see if I can quickly turn, and then they also have an NPC bond question which ties you to the world, which I think is wicked cool, because you create your, most of the time, PCs shouldn't be created in a vacuum, but most of the time PCs are created in a vacuum without thinking about the larger world as a whole that they're being placed into. But Spire handles it really well because Spire is a game that is played within this very, very specific world in which these very, very specific events are happening.
Yeah, it's very tied to its setting. Yeah.
So intrinsically, you are connected to this setting. And by having that as a part of character creation, it drives that home even more. So looking at my favorite class, the Idol, because I'm a sentient garbage bag and I have a type. So for the bonds for the Idol is you have a street level bond with your adoring fans, name 3 of them. So that's your NPC bond. So it's saying you create 3 NPCs that are a fan of your character, because the Idol is an occult celebrity. So you've created these NPCs that you can then call on throughout the game, which connects you to the world. And then you have a bond with another PC who has feelings for you, even if they won't admit it to you. Describe the moment when you knew it for sure. So then it creates another PC has feelings for you. They haven't told you, but you know it, which then connects you to the party. So with 2 questions, you have connections both with your fellow party members or one of your fellow party members, and you're also connected to this world that exists and is a living, breathing, operating thing when you get put into it. And the questions are so well suited for each class and the types of characters that come out of these classes. And yeah,
I like that though. The idea, as you said, like the idea of that's a great example of a really good bond mechanic, tying you to bond questions that tie you to other characters, tie you to the party, and tie you to the world. That's really really well made, and that instantly gives you not just your dynamics with other people, but also your place in the world. That's strong. That's very very strong.
And it's helpful. It's helpful as a player to establish that, because like it's one thing, like you can talk to your other players before a game starts and you can talk to them and be like, this is kind of what I'm thinking for my character, this is how they feel about X, Y, and Z. But like you can't talk to the setting and you can't talk to the world to figure out how you feel about it. So by answering these questions, you're able to get a sense of who you are in the grand scheme of the world of the game, which you find out more through play, obviously, but it's nice to go into it having that idea of who you are in the context of the world at large. And with Spire being a game that's so intrinsically tied to the lore and the setting being such a big part of it, that's so important.
Some people don't like that. I'm okay with it, but some people don't like games that are really tied to their setting.
Yeah.
And I can understand the objection there, but
for sure, like I think the thing with Spire, I love everything about Spire. There's nothing I don't love about Spire. But I like it because it gives you, like, you have so much lore and it's so rich and so aesthetically amazing and weird and creepy. But it gives you don't need to worry about any of that because it's there. You can just focus on your characters in the story at hand. Like you don't need to worry about world building and things like that.
Right.
Like the focus is just on the characters, and that's something that I really love in games. Like I'm the kind of player that just wants to spend her time exploring character relationships and character development and that kind of thing. So a game that kind of makes way for that to be the focus is really attractive to me as a player.
What do you think about this? This is the mechanic that in the game I'm developing with Anna, and the way we came up with this, I was happy with how this works, I think. But that all of our bond and all of our relationship questions that we put into the playbooks always have an ask and a tell built into it. So one that off the top of my head is something like, in relation for your character to another character, you don't think they have what it takes to get the job done. Ask them where they fall short and tell them how they could earn your approval. Something like that. I think that's the way we wrote them. They all are structured in that way, of trying to get something from the player and also give something back. So they work both ways.
Yeah, like I love that as a mechanic because I like when it's not one-sided.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're creating a bond between someone, if you're creating a relationship between somebody, like I feel like that should be something that's done between the two parties, which is why like I love in Royal Blood, in in pretty much every game that I've designed that has a bond building mechanic, it's always in the form of a question. Like you are asking somebody how they feel about you, or you are telling them something and asking them why. And I think that just creates a more dynamic relationship, and it also creates a good back and forth between the players, that instead of just being like, okay, you are like, if the question is just like, oh, like who are you jealous of, it's like, all right, I'm jealous of this person, instead of asking like, when did you learn that I was jealous of you, or something like that. Like and with questions like that, it also creates a backstory element to it as well, beyond just like a base level.
Yeah, because with that, there's events that
creates
go with
a story.
Yeah, something happens
Right.
that creates that dynamic, and
well,
it's jealousy is a great example. You're jealous of them. I'm jealous of Colin's character is jealous of Meghan's character. Is Meghan's character aware of that? How does she feel about that?
Or when did she first realize, or when did you first realize you were jealous of my character? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I quite like it when a specific question hints at an event.
Yeah.
So you actually have to make up a story block of we were doing this and this happened.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that shared backstory that you can both draw on in other situations that aren't necessarily
Right.
immediately related to the jealousy.
Yeah, and that makes me think of For the Queen, which is
I haven't played
another
that one
game
yet.
that
I
I
keep hearing
absolutely
great
love.
things about that.
Oh, it's so good. The whole game is bond building, more or less, because the basic premise is that everybody that's playing is in the retinue of this queen who's traveling to a distant land to try to broker peace. And it's just played by answering prompts, and the prompts are things like sometimes you think that you feel like you're the queen's favorite, like how do you know and why does that scare you? Or like another member of the retinue knows your secret, like what is it and how did they find out? And like, so the whole game is you are creating this queen and you're creating your characters and the interpersonal relationships between all the members of this retinue, like from the jump. Like there's nothing that exists, you're just answering these prompts and it's creating this web and these bonds between these characters, and it's all through these very brilliantly written prompts. Alex Roberts can write the hell out of a game. But For the Queen is incredible for that it's literally just answering prompts, and creating in these relationships. You can see them form, but it's asking questions. Like some of them are more general, but other ones are very event specific.
We had that
So you are
uh,
creating a story
very
as you
similar
go.
thing. Lydia and I did that when we played Dead Friend together, by Lucian Khan. It's a two-player GM-less.
I love his game so much.
That game's heavy, but the way that he wrote those, I mean, it's all prompts. The entire thing is answering.
Yeah.
You're filling in. You're playing as a necromancer communicating with your dead friend, and you both have a goal that comes up in the very beginning. It's random. Like you want to draw from your dead friend's power. Your dead friend wants to kill you. Like that's one of the options, or it could be something more benign. But no matter what, your goals are always at odds with each other. That's purposely designed that way. And as you're going along, you're building the story between the two of you. What happened? How did you die? How did you get here? What events have happened that led you to do this? And Lydia and I don't know, it took maybe like 2 hours or something, but
I think so.
But with those prompts, we built a great little story out of that.
Yeah.
That was like, ooh, I was a little emotional when that was over. It's
Yeah,
well made.
like, and that there's something to be said for games that are very simplistic in their design. Like a lot of times games that are more simplistic in their like mechanics are so much harder to write and design than it is to make something that's bigger and more involved.
It's all about the elegance of mechanics.
Yes, but games that are more mechanically simple, I find hit very hard. A lot of like some of the most emotional responses I've had to playing RPGs are from games like For the Queen or like Starcrossed, like games that are very loosely structured and just like simple prompt based. That gives you
Steel and Oct?
That was my thought as well.
No. No, I have not.
Oof. We played it on this
might like
channel.
this one.
We played it on this channel, and we interviewed Petra,
heard.
the creator of it, on here too. And that game is, every time I've seen it played, every time I've participated, it's one of the most powerful emotional experiences I've ever seen.
It's been on my list. I'll have to play it.
I think partly the reason for that is because you're a little bit more involved when you have to put more of yourself and your own thoughts into this. If you roll on a table, that's fine, but it's a result that die gave you. It's not a result you made up yourself. And obviously, as soon as you decide on, this could have happened, your brain, even if you don't speak it out aloud, immediately makes 15 other connections of what could have happened that is not actually important for the story at hand, but you have it in your mind, and that just fleshes out a character. It makes them more real, and that hits harder when they then fail to do a thing or get accused of something or whatever happened in the story.
That's a really good point. Like there's the detachment from your choices is less when it's a prompt based thing that you're just responding to. Like it's not the dice saying that you failed something, or like you are making
You are making your own
active
pain.
choices. Oh, and I love it so much.
Hey, Colin. Stop tweeting yourself.
Subtweeting myself.
That's
super
my
hard.
God. That's everything. I just love the pain. My poor PCs don't deserve what I do to
What
them.
you put them through.
Oh, they don't. They're all good girls and they don't deserve any of this. But it's like playing, I think my biggest emotional response to games has been from playing Dialect. I don't know if either of you
I
have
have not
played
played this
Dialect,
yet.
but
Anna has been
Anna's been on
trying
me
to
about
play
it,
that.
yeah.
But yeah.
I have yet to make it through a game of Dialect without crying. Like, it's so good. It's a brilliantly designed game. But like the level of emotion that you're able to elicit, like as you tell this story, is like pretty incredible. Like, and I've played very, very different games with very different people, and all of them have been very gorgeous stories, but super, super emotional. And everybody should play Dialect.
Is
Please
it
play
playable
Dialect.
on stream?
Yes, I've played it
Noted.
on my show, Unprepared. I've played it. The Roll20. It's not. There is a Roll20 for it, and the Roll20 is pretty good considering it's a game that doesn't translate super well to playing on Roll20. But you can definitely play it on stream. It's a longer, like you could probably play it in a one shot, but every time I've played it, it's been like 2-3 hour sessions to like really get into it.
We've had a 5-hour stream. May as well just go the whole way and just.
You could probably
Colin,
do it.
no.
You could probably
Colin,
do.
Colin.
You could probably do it in 5. But there is a Roll20 for it. There's also a Roll20 for the Queen, and it's an amazing Roll20. So it makes for a very good stream game. I've played it on stream a couple times, and it's very fun.
All right.
But can't recommend Dialect enough. It's probably my favorite game.
Noted. That's
my favorite
more
GM
recommendations.
game.
Well, we need to wrap up in a minute, but before we go, we do have one. This is not a show with any structure, but the one.
In case you couldn't tell.
The one recurring element that we have had here is the plea to the GMs of the world. On the subject of character bonding, if you had your magic wand and you were able to make every GM do exactly what you want them to do, what would be your plea to the GMs of the world? Either something like, please God, don't do this, or the please do that. Normally it's the more negative former version.
Yeah,
But the please fucking stop doing this, or the please do this.
God.
Please always do this.
Please encourage your players to create bonds with each other. Encourage them to do it. If your players take the time to create bonds with each other, put it in the story, use it as a tool.
Yes.
Bonds are incredibly powerful, like not just like from player to player enjoyment, but you can help drive the story through what your characters share with one another. So like if encourage your characters to make bonds with each other, encourage them to create a story of why they are together, what keeps them together. And then if they're giving you this information, if they're giving you these stories, use them to the best of your ability. Like use what they're giving you, because they're spending time making these bonds with each other and bonding themselves to this world that you're creating, this story that you're telling, so that you can then use it.
Yeah.
So
they clearly thought that story was important to tell, so help them tell it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And just talk. Check in with your players.
And
just talk to them.
Communicate,
please.
Communicate. So, Megan, thank you for talking to us. We had fun. Thank you.
Thank you for having me and listening to me ramble on about
Well, we'll have to. We'll
things.
do a special episode that's just 3 hours of you and me just talking about masks. So don't worry.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, I'll have. I think I'll have an appointment.
We've got all these books to get through.
Got all the yes. Like, don't threaten me with a good time. I'll just sit here and we can just make Masks character.
I thought about doing a character creation stream. Just make some characters on stream. People apparently like that shit. I
would do that.
I would have fun
make,
doing it.
I would make so many superheroes. I like coming up with catchy superhero names. I have
That's
a spreadsheet currently of all of my Masks PC ideas because I have
Megan,
too many.
You're my kind
and
of player.
can't keep them straight. So anytime I have a new idea for a Masks PC, I'm like, put it on the spreadsheet.
I have somewhere years ago I was planning a mask campaign that never happened, but I have
Travesty.
Absolute tragedy. But I was a lawyer back then, and of course every lawyer's favorite gig is stealing office supplies. So I have like stacks of yellow legal pads that I took from every office I've ever worked at, and I have a yellow legal pad that is just completely thick full of I did like they do in the Masks book where it's like the generations of superheroes.
Yeah.
I did like 4 generations of superheroes, and I have all their names and everything about them, and it's I want to use it all so bad, but I don't know where it is. I gotta find it.
Yeah.
Oh, I might know where it is. Anyway, before we take off, Megan, why don't you tell lovely viewers where you can be seen in weeks to come?
Yeah. So hi everyone, I've been Megan. You can find me most places you can find a human on the internet at Megan Lynn FTW. Currently, you can find me on Mondays on the Chromatic Chimeras Twitch channel playing in our quest campaign, The Soaring City, where I play Lena. She's a spy. She's a disaster. I love her very much. That's at 6:30 Eastern on Mondays at Chromatic Chimera. You can find me next Tuesday on Chromatic Chimera on my show, Unprepared, which is my monthly stream where I facilitate GM-less and prepless games for rotating casts of people, aka my friends who I can coerce into playing a GM-less or prepless game with me. This month we are playing Anyone Can Wear the Mask by Jeff Stormer, which is a GM-less game about superheroes. It's a 3-player game where you play as the hero, the city, and the villain.
Ooh,
and I am exceedingly excited about it.
That's cool.
It's a very good game. Everyone should check it out. Anyone Can Wear the Mask. Jeff is wonderful. And that's where you can find any of the games that I've written, including Session Zero, at meganlinftw.itch.io. And yeah, that's about it for me.
I just dropped Megan's links in there. If you click that is a link tree that'll take you to all things Meghan Cross.
Yes.
You can get to Megan's itch, her Twitter, her own shop, or if you just want to give her money, go to her Ko-Fi. That's all right there. So sweet, Megan.
But yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come back and play some games with us sometime.
Absolutely.
We are doing Pasión de las Pasiones in a few weeks, by the way. So that's happening.
I really want to play Pasión de las Pasiones.
It's happening.
I have been dying to play it.
Well, you'll get to see it very shortly in a couple, I don't know, 3 weeks from now or something like that on Sunday.
Excellent.
All right, Megan. We'll see you later. Good night.
Bye.
So
you're a cupboard and I'm a lamp.
Oh yeah, what was all that bullshit about? Let's get back to talking about the real stuff. Let's get back to furniture. I just realized I still had Megan up on the screen because I didn't transition. Anyway.
Professional streamer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of games we have now added to our One Shot Sunday catalog. The backlog is considerable at this point, but it will happen. The year is young, and we are not, but we have a couple of good years in us yet. We can roll dice on every Sunday right here. I really enjoyed this particular chat because it's so nice when you're like you get me, you get this, you get what I mean. It's good. The harping, and I know you've been harping on about the background stuff and the character bonding for ages, and to actually sit down like Megan did and make tools for
Do
that.
something about it. Yeah.
Do something about it. I respect the hell out of that. So.
And she made some great tools. I mean, like I have told everyone about Session Zero. Like,
Oh, you've been holding that.
I've been holding this deck up to the camera for many sessions. I did this on Weave the Tale the other day. Like, get this thing seriously. It's so helpful. It's made my games better. It legitimately has made my games better. So,
speaking of games, oh, that was a bad one, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't all
Which
we do is
games are
speak
you
of
on?
games.
I know, right? But where are we, Colin?
Where are we
in the next few weeks? What are we doing?
Well, let's talk about One Shot Sundays. One Shot Sundays, shall we? As you've alluded to, this week on One Shot Sunday, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Every Sunday, we do a one-shot that is a new system, totally new game, completely new cast of people, some returning faces, but we got all kinds of people have come through here. I lost count, actually, but I think we're up to like 24 different people have played on these things probably now. So
I think so. Not sure.
Yeah, we're always getting new people. This week, we are actually returning to a game we have done. It's a game we did on the very first episode of One Shot Sunday, way back in November. It is going to be Quietus, which is a awesome horror game that is a small, it's a 1 GM and 2 players tops. You can even do it one-on-one. That is a really fucking bleak horror game where there's a strong chance everybody will die at the end. It's not guaranteed, but it can happen. What's special about this week, though, I love Quietus. It's a great game. We've played it. I played it on Weave the Tale. Anna GM'd it here when we did it on this channel. But this week, our GM is for Quietus is Ollie Jeffrey, the creator of Quietus. The fellow who wrote the game is going to come on and run it for us. We have Sam Scribbles, who's is it Scribbling? I can't remember her. Scribbling Penny on Twitter.
Scribbling Penny on Twitter. Yeah.
Scribbling Penny and Marlo Bogwich, who have both played. Well, Sam hasn't, but Marlo has played on this channel before. Are gonna come on and they're gonna play that with Ollie. And I will just be a observer and enjoy the hell out of watching it. So that is 2:00 Eastern, 2 p.m. Eastern on this channel right here. Quietus. Week after that, we're playing Quest. This is back on our normal time slot, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. February 28th, Sunday, February 28th, we are playing Quest with a great cast of role players. Week after that, March 7th, Blades in the Dark. The week after that, March 14th, we're going back to one of my old favorites, and we're playing Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. So, yeah, it's one of the ones that started it all for me back when I was a teenager. So, come check that out. And then, as we alluded to, the week after that, Sunday, March 21st, Pasión de las Pasiones, the telenovela PBTA TTRPG. We, as Lydia said, we are scheduled out to April. I'm not going to read them all now. There's a lot going on, but just keep an eye here. The best way to find out what's happening, of course, is to follow this channel if you're not already. Follow, subscribe. I would appreciate it. And follow me on Twitter at Colinomicon. It's right there in my window. And you'll always know what's going on here on the channel. Of course, the other thing we have is the GM Post-Mortem. You just watched it. Wasn't it great? And in 2 weeks, this is a bi-weekly show. It's every other Friday at 7 p.m. now. It used to be 8 p.m. We moved time slots. 7 p.m. from now till forever. And our next guest is going to be Christopher Gray, a game developer who made The Great American Witch, which Lydia is GMing over on Weave the Tale, and also made one of my favorite PBTA games, The Happiest Apocalypse on Earth, which is a PBTA horror game set in a terrible version of Disney World. It's creepy and awesome, and you should go watch it. Other than that, you can catch me on Weave the Tale every Wednesday night at 6 p.m., where I'm GMing Black Void Into the Oblivious Depths. That has a wonderful cast of people, including our own channel's own Anna, Wally. I forgot. Jesus Christ. We have on this channel every Monday, but not this Monday, unfortunately. Every Monday at 7 p.m., we also have Estate, our current ongoing series That is a cyber Victoriana hellscape featuring Mr. El Bulbo GMing, myself playing, Wally, who's Wally132 on Twitter, Anna, Namira941, and our dear friend Savvy Seaworth. So do please come check that out. We are off this week. We had a pre-scheduled week off this week, but we'll be back next week for the next episode of that. And I think that's all. If I forgot something, please let me know. What are you doing, Lydia?
Did you forget the mask game you're going to be on?
Yes, I did. This
After all that talking about masks.
One-shots, yes, God, after all that talking about masks. This Sunday, we moved One-Shot Sunday earlier to 2 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. because at 7 p.m., I'm going to be over on Killer DM, Madev7, Madev7, that's the Twitch channel, playing masks, where I'm going to be reviving my astronaut superhero named Major Tom. The astronaut who went through a black hole and now is just a little bit weird on the other side. His life is not normal. I'm coming back. It's the first episode of they just finished their first volume. They do this they're very strict about the play it like a comic book thing. So they just assembled the first trade paperback, basically. They've had 16 episodes, and that's the first trade paperback. And I am now going to be in the one that's starting the next volume. So come check that out. Okay, that's seriously it. What about you, Lydia?
Much shorter. Much shorter, because I'm mostly behind the scenes when it comes to TTRPGs on stream on Weave the Tale, where you can find me ticking. So I'll be in the Twitch chat there, and I'll be in the Discord. But I do have one game that I couldn't pass by. I couldn't. I wanted to not do anything this season, and then Great American Witch happened. Thanks, Chris. Which is such a beautiful witch themed witch-themed Americana type style. You can set your coven wherever. It does have some of these narrative elements of World of Darkness with the various covens and the various crafts, but without the edgelordy factor. So I like that. It is PBTA as well based, has a couple of elements from 10 Candles and Fate, so it is a really good mix. We're going to talk about it as well in 2 weeks with Chris on the GM Post-Mortem, of course. If you want to have a look, the Weave the Tale Discord is also having the playlist as well as the YouTube playlist there. It just Google for Weave the Tale if you're not following them already on Twitch or all over the place. Season has just started. There's a couple of really good games we're playing this time for the next 10 weeks. So that's where I'm at. I will be part of the 4E1 shot here on this channel. I'll be part of Pasión de las Pasiones because I might have threatened Colin's life if I wasn't.
And much like, well, you're going to be in it because you, much like myself, much like Meghan, are, as she said, sentient trash bags. So, like, of course we're going to do that.
I will get an eye patch, and if it's the last thing I'll do. But apart from that, Half-Hour's Tournament on all socials. So if you need anything, ask me. Let me know. Thank you.
Yes. Do please stick around. We're going to go to an end screen, but stick around. In just a few seconds, we are going to be raiding over to see our friend Trooper. Trooper SJP, Academic Foxhole on Twitter, friend of the channel who was a guest on this very show you just watched. Super awesome dude. Truly one of the smartest human beings I've ever met in my life. And they're playing City of Light and Shadow, which is kick-ass, and you're going to love it. So we're going to go hop over there and say hi to Trooper. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in 2 weeks with Christopher Gray. Good night, everybody.